What do you do when the life you trusted no longer recognizes you? Not the dramatic kind of falling apart, the quiet kind. The kind where nothing explodes but everything feels wrong. Where you wake up and your chest is already heavy. Where the future you were walking towards suddenly disappears and you're left standing still wondering how you ended up here. If this feels personal, it's because it is. You didn't just lose something, you lost certainty, direction, the version of yourself that knew where it was going. And no one really talks about that part. They tell you to stay positive, to be grateful, to move on. But none of that touches the truth you're carrying right now. The truth is, it feels like the ground gave way beneath you. And you're trying to act normal while standing in the ruins of what you thought your life was supposed to be. That kind of loss changes how you see everything. It makes you question your choices, your worth, your instincts. It makes you replay moments you can't fix and conversations you can't redo. And slowly, without noticing, you start shrinking. You stop trusting yourself. You stop expecting good things. Not because you want to, but because disappointment taught you to. Here's the part most people won't tell you. Falling apart doesn't mean you failed. It means something you built your life on could no longer hold you. And that hurts, because you invested real hope into it, real effort, real belief. You weren't careless. You were committed. That matters. Right now, your mind might be searching for answers it can't find, trying to make sense of what feels senseless. That's not weakness. That's a human response to loss. Your brain is trying to protect you from more pain by replaying the past. But protection can start to feel like a prison when it keeps you stuck. You may feel behind, like everyone else is moving forward while you're trying to stand back up. But life isn't a race with a single track. It's a series of rebuilds, and no one escapes that. There is a version of you beneath this pain that hasn't disappeared. It's quieter now, more guarded, but it's still there, waiting for permission to breathe again. And here's the promise you need to hear, even if you don't fully believe it yet. This breaking point is not the end of your story. It's the moment the story stops being borrowed and starts becoming real. The collapse stripped away what wasn't aligned, what couldn't last, what demanded you be someone you were outgrowing. That doesn't make the pain noble. It makes it meaningful. You don't need to fix everything today. You don't need clarity. You don't need confidence. You only need one thing right now: honesty. Honesty about where you are, about what hurts, about what no longer works. Because rebuilding doesn't start with strength, it starts with truth. And when you stop pretending you're okay, something unexpected happens. The weight shifts just slightly, enough to breathe anew. But you realize that even here, even now, you're still standing. This moment isn't asking you to be fearless. It's asking you to stay. To not abandon yourself just because things fell apart. To recognize that the fact you're still searching means something inside you hasn't given up. There is a way forward from this place. Not back to who you were, but into someone wiser, someone more grounded, someone who builds a life that fits instead of one that impresses. You don't see it yet. That's okay. All you need to know is this: the end you're grieving made room for a beginning that couldn't exist before. And if you stay with yourself through this, if you don't numb it or rush it, you will come out of this not empty but rebuilt. You're still here. And that matters more than you realize, because most people don't fall apart loudly. They fade quietly. They keep showing up while slowly disconnecting from themselves. They smile, nod, agree, and disappear on the inside. If you're listening to this, it means something in you refused to shut down. Something is still demanding more from life. That part deserves your attention. Right now, you're standing at a dangerous edge, not because you're weak, but because this is the moment where patterns are either repeated or broken. Pain will try to pull you backward. Familiar habits will whisper that staying the same is safer than changing. That voice sounds reasonable. It sounds calm, but it's lying. Staying the same is what keeps you stuck. You can't rebuild your life with the same rules that broke it. You can't heal by returning to the place that hurt you. And you can't become who you're meant to be by clinging to who you used to be. That chapter is closed, whether you're ready or not. This is where urgency matters. Every day you delay, your brain learns to normalize survival mode. It learns to accept less, to expect disappointment, to settle for distraction instead of direction. And over time, that becomes your identity, not because it's true, but because repetition trains belief. That's why this moment is critical. You don't need a perfect plan. You need a decision to stop negotiating with the version of you that wants comfort over growth. A decision to stop numbing the pain and start listening to it. Pain isn't here to punish you. It's here to point you toward change. There is something your breakdown revealed that success never could. It showed you what actually matters when everything else is stripped away. It exposed the relationships that were conditional, the goals that weren't yours, the expectations that were crushing you quietly. That knowledge is expensive. You paid for it with heartbreak and confusion. Don't waste it. This is the moment to rebuild from the inside out, not by becoming louder, not by proving anything, but by choosing alignment over approval, by choosing progress over perfection, by choosing truth over comfort. Small actions done consistently will rewire how you see yourself, and how you see yourself determines everything. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your self-trust. Right now, your self-trust is damaged. That's okay. Trust isn't rebuilt through words, it's rebuilt through evidence. One kept promise, one boundary respected, one hard choice followed through. Every time you act in your own best interest, even when it's uncomfortable, something inside you stabilizes. Momentum begins quietly. At first, nothing changes on the outside. That's the test. That's where most people quit. They assume it's not working because they don't feel different yet. But identity shifts before results show. Always. The foundation forms underground before anything rises above the surface. Stay long enough to feel that shift. You are not rebuilding to go back. You are rebuilding to go forward with clarity, with standards, with a deeper understanding of yourself. This version of you will not beg for belonging or shrink to be accepted. This version knows what has survived, and that creates gravity. People will feel the difference before you say a word. Opportunities will align differently. Decisions will feel cleaner, not because life gets easier, but because you stop betraying yourself to keep things familiar. This is bigger than motivation. This is about reclaiming authorship of your life. The collapse forced you to stop running. Now you get to choose where you stand. And if you commit to that choice fully and honestly, this moment will become the turning point you look back on with gratitude. Not because it didn't hurt, but because it finally made you awake. Awakening is only the beginning. What comes next demands courage, because once you see clearly, you can't unsee it. You can't return to autopilot. You can't pretend ignorance. Awareness changes the rules, and now the cost of staying the same is higher than the cost of change. This is where most people hesitate. They feel the pull to rise, but fear the responsibility that comes with it. Because rebuilding yourself means letting go of excuses. It means admitting that some doors won't reopen. Some people won't come with you. Some versions of you must be left behind, even if they feel familiar. That grief is real. You are mourning not just what you lost, but what could have been. The life you imagined, the outcomes you worked for. That grief deserves space. But it does not get to decide your future. If you stay there too long, it hardens into regret. And regret quietly steals years. Time is moving, whether you act or not. Every day you delay choosing yourself, you reinforce the belief that you are not worth the effort. That belief seeps into everything, your posture, your voice, your standards. You begin to accept situations that drain you because fighting feels exhausting. But exhaustion isn't a signal to quit. It's a signal to change how you're living. You weren't meant to survive on scraps of joy. There is a deeper life available to you, but it requires you to step into discomfort with intention, to face the habits that kept you small, to question the narratives you inherited, to stop outsourcing your worth to outcomes and approval. This is where inner authority is built, not through force, but through consistency, through choosing what aligns even when no one applauds, through showing up on days when motivation is silent. Discipline isn't punishment, it's self-respect in action. And every time you practice it, you send a message to yourself that you can be trusted. That message changes everything. Your nervous system begins to settle. Your mind stops racing as much. You start responding instead of reacting. You create space between impulse and action. In that space, power lies, the power to choose differently, the power to walk away, the power to stay when it matters. You begin to feel grounded, not invincible, not perfect, grounded. And that grounding allows you to build something real, something sustainable, something that doesn't collapse the moment life applies pressure. This is how resilience is formed, not by avoiding pain, but by integrating it, by letting it inform you without defining you, by extracting wisdom from wounds and using it to set better boundaries, clearer goals, and healthier rhythms. You are no longer chasing a version of life that looks good from the outside. You are creating one that feels right on the inside. That shift is subtle, but it's unstoppable. Once you taste alignment, you won't tolerate misalignment for long. You'll notice when something drains you. You'll feel it in your body before your mind catches up. And instead of pushing through, you'll pause. You'll adjust. You'll protect what you're building. Because now you understand what it costs to rebuild. You know how fragile things can be when they're not rooted in truth. And you refuse to build on shaky ground again. This time you move with intention. You move with awareness. You move with respect for your limits and belief in your capacity. The world doesn't need you to be louder. It needs you to be real, to be steady, to be someone who has been broken open and chose to rebuild with integrity. That kind of presence changes rooms. It inspires without performance. It leads without force. And it starts with the choice you make repeatedly to honor yourself, to act even when fear is present, to keep going when progress feels invisible, to trust that what you're becoming is worth the discomfort of growth. This is not a temporary phase. This is a turning point. The ground beneath you is solid now because you built it yourself. And as you continue forward step by step, you will realize something profound. You didn't lose everything. You shed what couldn't come with you. And what remains is strong enough to build a life that finally feels like yours. Strong enough to build doesn't mean safe from doubt. Doubt will still show up, it always does. The difference now is that doubt no longer runs the story. It becomes in voice, not direction. You hear it, but you don't obey it. This is where real growth begins. Because rebuilding yourself isn't about one breakthrough moment. It's about what you do after the clarity fades. After the inspiration quiets down. After no one is watching. That's where character is formed. In the ordinary moments where discipline decides your future. You will feel resistance, not from the world, but from inside. From the part of you that wants rest without effort, comfort without risk, familiar pain instead of unfamiliar growth. That part isn't evil, it's protective. It learned survival when you were hurting. But survival is no longer enough. You didn't rebuild to merely exist. You rebuilt to live with intention. To wake up knowing your actions matter. To move through the day with a sense of direction that doesn't depend on validation. That kind of life demands consistency, and consistency demands that you act even when your emotions hesitate. This is the work. It's choosing teach, harder right over the easier wrong, choosing focus over distraction, choosing long-term peace over short-term relief. These choices seem small in the moment, but they compound, slowly, relentlessly, until one day you look around and realize your life feels different, not louder, clearer. You start noticing how much energy you used to waste proving yourself, explaining yourself, shrinking yourself. Now that energy is available, and where attention goes, growth follows. You invested into learning, into building, into becoming sharper and more intentional. Your standards rise. You stop negotiating with environments that drain you. You stop chasing approval from people who don't see you. You stop saying yes when your body is saying no. This isn't arrogance, it's self-respect finally taking the lead. And self-respect changes your posture in the world. You walk slower, speak clearer, decide faster. You no longer rush to fill silence or justify boundaries. You understand that your time and energy are finite, and you protect them like something valuable because now you know they are. This creates momentum. Momentum attracts opportunity, not magically, but practically. When you show up consistently, people notice. When you operate with clarity, doors open. When you respect yourself, others adjust their behavior around you. But the real reward isn't external, it's internal stability. The calm that comes from knowing you can rely on yourself, that no matter what happens, you will respond with integrity. That confidence doesn't come from success. It comes from keeping promises to yourself when it's inconvenient. You are building a reputation with yourself. Every choice is a vote for the person you are becoming. Skip enough votes and you drift. Cast them daily and identity solidifies. This is how you become unshakable. Not by controlling outcomes, but by controlling effort. There will still be hard days. Days where progress feels invisible. Days where old thoughts resurface. Days where rest feels tempting and discipline feels heavy. Those days don't mean you're failing. They mean you're human. The difference now is that you don't let one hard day undo weeks of growth. You keep moving because you understand something most people never learn. That rebuilding yourself is not about returning to confidence. It's about earning it through action, through patience, through repeated proof that you are capable of growth. And that changes how you see the future. The future no longer feels like a threat. It feels like a responsibility, a space you are actively shaping instead of passively waiting for. You stop hoping things will work out and start creating conditions where they can. This is power, quiet power, grounded power, the kind that doesn't need to announce itself, the kind that survives pressure, the kind that lasts. You didn't rebuild to impress the world. You rebuild to stand firm when the world shakes again. And it will. Life will test you again. Tease guaranteed. But next time you won't collapse into confusion. You'll adjust, you'll adapt, you'll lead yourself through it. Because now you trust the person you've become. And that trust is the strongest foundation you will ever have. Trust is the foundation, but responsibility is the structure. Now that you trust yourself, you can no longer live accidentally. Every choice carries weight. Every habit leaves a mark. Every day either reinforces who you are becoming or pulls you back toward who you outgrew. This is where commitment separates from comfort. Comfort asks for relief. Commitment asks for alignment. Comfort wants today to be easier. Commitment wants tomorrow to be better. And every time you choose commitment, you strengthen a part of yourself that cannot be taken away. Circumstances can change, people can leave, outcomes can fail. But the ability to commit to your values stays. You are no longer waiting to be rescued. Waiting keeps people passive. It trains the mind to hoe. PE instead of act. You've moved beyond that. You understand that no one is coming to hand you the life you want. That responsibility belongs to you. And instead of feeling heavy, that realization becomes empowering. Because it means your future is no longer dependent on luck, it's dependent on choice. Choice is where momentum lives. Not the big dramatic choices, but the quiet ones repeated daily. What you tolerate, what you avoid, what you pursue even when it's uncomfortable. These choices shape your identity in real time. They either sharpen your edge or dull it. You can feel the difference now. You feel it when you walk away from what no longer fits. You feel it when you show up even though no one is forcing you. You feel it when you say no without guilt and yes without fear. These moments don't look impressive from the outside, but internally they are everything. This is self-leadership. Self-leadership means you stop outsourcing your direction. You don't wait for permission. You don't need constant reassurance. You set a standard, then live by it. Not perfectly. Honestly. When you fall short, you correct course instead of quitting. That's maturity. Maturity is understanding that growth is not linear. Some days you move forward, some days you pause, some days you stumble. But you never return to the old patterns that broke you. You don't romanticize the past. You don't minimize the lessons. You use them. And those lessons sharpen your vision. You begin to see distractions for what they are. Temporary escapes that steal long-term clarity. You begin to value depth over noise, progress over appearance, substance over speed. This changes how you spend your time, your energy, your focus. Your life becomes intentional. Intentional living creates pressure. Pressure reveals strength. When pressure comes now, you don't panic, you prioritize, you slow down. You decide what matters most and let the rest fall away. This ability turns chaos into direction. Direction creates confidence, not loud confidence. Quiet certainty, the kind that doesn't need to convince anyone. The kind that stands firm without aggression. The kind that remains steady even when things don't go as planned. This steadiness is rare. Most people never build it because they avoid discomfort. You didn't. You stayed when things fell apart. You faced yourself when it was easier to escape. You chose to rebuild instead of retreat. That choice changed you permanently. You carry that strength forward now. Not as armor, but as wisdom. Not as bitterness, but as discernment. You know what it costs to start over. You know what it feels like to lose ground and regain it. That knowledge makes you resilient in a way that can't be taught. The future will test you again, not to punish you, but to refine you. And when it does, you won't beg for stability. You'll create it. You won't collapse into fear. You'll respond with clarity. You won't abandon yourself to keep the peace. You'll choose integrity, Every time, this is the life you're building. A life rooted in truth, driven by purpose, sustained by discipline, guided by self-respect. It may not impress everyone, but it will sustain you. And that matters more than approval ever could. You didn't rebuild yourself to feel safe. You rebuilt yourself to be solid. And from that solidity, everything else can grow. Solid doesn't mean finished. It means ready to carry weight, ready to hold pressure, ready to act when fear shows up uninvited. Because fear will return, it always does. Not to stop you, but to test whether you trust what you've built. This is the moment where belief turns into behavior. Belief without action fades. Action without belief breaks. You need both now. You need to move even when certainty is incomplete. You need to choose direction even when the path isn't fully visible. Momentum favors the committed, not the confident. Waiting for confidence is a trap. Confidence is a side effect of movement, of doing the R&D thing repeatedly, of showing up when excuses sound convincing. Every time you act despite hesitation, you teach your mind a new rule. You teach it that fear is information, not instruction. That lesson is priceless because the world is loud. It pulls at your attention. It sells comfort and calls it happiness. It rewards distraction and punishes patience. If you don't protect your focus, it will be taken from you. And focus is the engine of everything you're trying to build. You must guard it. Guard your mornings. Guard your energy. Guard the standards you fought to create. Not aggressively, deliberately. You've seen what happens when you drift. You've lived the cost of ignoring your intuition. You don't need that lesson twice. Now you move with awareness. Awareness of your triggers. Awareness of your limits. Awareness of what strengthens you and what drains you. This awareness allows you to choose environments that support growth instead of sabotage it. It allows you to invest in habits that compound instead of distract. This is how stability becomes expansion. Once you're stable, you can stretch. You can aim higher. You can take risks without losing yourself. You stop fearing failure because failure no longer defines you. It informs you. It sharpens you. It points you toward refinement. You become anti-fragile. Pressure doesn't just test you anymore. It improves you. Challenges reveal where you need to adjust, not where you should quit. This mindset turns obstacles into feedback, and feedback accelerates progress faster than praise ever could. You start playing the long game, not chasing quick wins, not needing instant validation. You invest in skills, in health, and relationships that are built on mutual respect. You understand that what lasts is built slowly and intentionally. This patience is powerful. It keeps you from burning out. It keeps you from comparing your chapter to someone else's highlight. It keeps you grounded when success arrives and steady when setbacks appear. You no longer rise and fall with every external shift. You become internally anchored. That anchor changes how you show up. You listen more, you react less. You speak with clarity instead of urgency. You don't need to dominate space to be felt. Your presence carries weight because it's backed by consistency. People sense it. They sense when someone knows who they are, when someone isn't pretending, when someone has walked through collapse and chosen to rebuild with intention. That kind of authenticity creates trust, and trust opens doors that force never can. But this isn't about influence. It's about alignment, about living in a way that doesn't require you to betray yourself, about making decisions you can stand behind even when no one is watching. That integrity becomes your compass when things get unclear, and they will get unclear again. Life doesn't stop testing, it evolves. New challenges replace old ones, bigger responsibilities demand deeper discipline. But no, you're equipped. Not because you control everything, but because you control your response. That control is freedom, freedom from old cycles, freedom from constant self-doubt, freedom from needing permission to become who you're capable of being. You earned that freedom by staying when things fell apart and choosing to rebuild anyway. This is the payoff. Not comfort, not perfection. Capacity. The capacity to hold more, to handle more, to create more, to give more, without losing yourself in the process. You are no longer defined by what broke you. You are defined by what you built after. And that story is still being written. Every choice you make now adds weight to it. Make those choices with intention. Make them with courage. Make them with the quiet certainty of someone who knows they can start again if they have to. Because now you know the truth. You are not fragile. You are forged. Forged doesn't mean finished being tested. It means tested enough to know what you're made of. Now the stakes are higher. Because once you realize your strength, you can't go back to living small. You can't unknow what you know. You can't pretend you're powerless when you've already proven you're not. This is where responsibility sharpens. Not the kind that weighs you down, but the kind that wakes you up. The kind that reminds you that your life responds to your choices. That what you tolerate today becomes your reality tomorrow. That drifting now would undo everything you fought to build. This moment demands presence. Not someday, not when you feel ready. Now, because momentum is fragile. It grows when you act and fades when you hesitate. You don't need to rush, but you do need to move. Stillness with intention is powerful. Stillness without intention becomes decay. You know the difference. You feel it in your body when something is off. When a habit pulls you backward. When a thought pattern tries to reopen a door you closed for a reason. Awareness gave you that signal. Discipline teaches you what to do with it. This is where you choose again. Not once. Repeatedly. You choose structure over chaos. You choose clarity over confusion. You choose the discomfort of growth over the comfort of stagnation. These choices don't make headlines, but they build lives, and lives are built daily. What you feed your mind, what you allow into your space, what you say yes to when it would be easier to say no. These decisions shape your nervous system. They train your brain to expect stability instead of stress. That's not luck. That's design. You are designing a life that doesn't collapse the moment pressure hits. One that bends, adapts, and keeps moving. One where setbacks don't erase progress because progress is rooted deeper than outcomes. You stop defining yourself by results. Results fluctuate. Effort doesn't. Integrity doesn't. Growth doesn't. You begin measuring success by how you show up, not by how things turn out. This frees you from fear and anchors you in process. Process is power. When you trust the process, you stop panicking about timelines. You stop comparing paths. You stop rushing evolution. You understand that becoming solid takes time, and you respect that timeline instead of fighting it. This patience is not passive. It's active restraint. It's choosing not to sabotage long-term progress for short-term relief. It's staying committed when boredom creeps in. Because boredom is often the doorway to mastery, most people quit there. They mistake calm for stagnation. They chase chaos because it feels like movement. You don't need that anymore. You've learned that quiet consistency builds more than dramatic effort ever could. That lesson sets you apart. You move through the world differently now, less reactive, more intentional. You don't need constant stimulation to feel alive. Purpose fuels you, direction steadies you, and when doubt appears, as it will, you don't fight it. You observe it, you acknowledge it, then you act anyway. Because SE action rewrites belief faster than thinking ever will. Each step forward weakens doubt's voice and strengthens your own. This is how confidence is earned, not granted. Earned through repetition, through follow-through, through staying true to yourself when shortcuts tempt you. That kind of confidence doesn't disappear when things go wrong. It holds. And because it holds, you begin to influence without trying. People watch how you move, how you respond, how you remain steady when others panic. You become proof that rebuilding is possible. But this isn't about being an example. It's about fulfillment, about living a life that doesn't feel like a constant negotiation with yourself, about waking up aligned with your values and ending the day without regret. That's the reward. Not applause, not perfection, peace. The quiet peace of knowing you're living in truth, that you're not running from yourself anymore, that you're building something honest. The world will keep changing, challenge. So keep coming. Loss, uncertainty, pressure, all of it. But now you meet those moments differently. Not as someone hoping to survive, but as someone capable of adapting. You are no longer asking life to be easier. You are becoming stronger. And strength, real strength, doesn't shout. It stands. It endures. It keeps choosing forward even when the path is unclear. You didn't rebuild yourself to avoid breaking again. You rebuilt yourself so that if you ever do break, you know exactly how to rise. And this time, you won't be afraid of the fire. You know what it creates. Fire doesn't ask for permission. It reveals what's real. And now you know you can stand in it without disappearing. That knowledge changes how you move. You stop flinching at difficulty. You stop interpreting resistance as a sign to quit. You recognize it as confirmation that you're doing something that matters. This is where resolve is forged. Resolve is quiet. It doesn't announce itself. It shows up when motivation gone and excuses feel tempting. It's the voice that says you keep going anyway. Not because it's easy, because stopping will cost you more. You've already paid the price of collapse. You know what it feels like to lose ground, to question everything, to rebuild from fragments. That memory isn't there to haunt you. It's there to anchor you, to remind you that you survived what you once thought would break you. That memory is leverage. Use it. When comfort tries to pull you backward. When old patterns resurface dressed as harmless habits. When you feel the urge to settle just to avoid friction. Remember how expensive rebuilding was. Remember how much effort it took to get here. You don't throw that away. This is the phase where intention becomes identity, where what you do consistently defines who you are. You don't wait for perfect conditions, you create workable ones. You don't wait to feel ready. You act and readiness follows. Action clarifies everything. It cuts through overthink. It dissolves fear. It turns uncertainty into feedback. Each step forward gives you information, what works, what doesn't, what needs adjustment. That feedback loop accelerates growth. Stagnation is the real danger, not failure, not mistakes. Staying still when you know better, that's what erodes confidence, that's what reopens old wounds. Movement, even imperfect movement, keeps you alive to possibility. You are building momentum again, not the reckless kind, the sustainable kind. The kind that compounds quietly until one day the distance between who you were and who you are becomes undeniable. Others may not notice right away. You'll feel it in your decisions. They'll become cleaner, faster, less emotionally charged. You won't need to convince yourself as much. You'll know. That knowing reduces friction. It frees up energy. And energy directed with purpose is unstoppable. Purpose doesn't need to be dramatic. It just needs to be honest. Align with your values. Connect. D, to something bigger than immediate comfort. Purpose gives meaning to effort. It turns discipline into devotion. Devotion changes everything. You stop asking how little you can do and start asking how well you can do it. You take pride in follow-through. You respect your word. You become someone others can rely on because you rely on yourself first. That reliability builds trust. Trust with yourself, trust with others, trust in the process you're committing to. And trust reduces anxiety because uncertainty no longer feels threatening. It feels navigable. You don't need guarantees. You need direction. And you have it now. Not because the path is clear, but because your standards are. You know what you won't tolerate. You know what you're working toward. You know what kind of person you're choosing to be. That clarity is rare. Most people numb themselves to avoid making choices. You didn't. You faced the discomfort. You stayed awake. You chose responsibility over avoidance. That choic. E reshaped you, and it keeps reshaping you. Every day you honor it. Every time you act with integrity when no one is watching. Every time you resist the urge to self-sabotage. Every time you choose growth over ease. These moments stack. They build a life that doesn't crumble at the first sign of pressure. A life that reflects your effort. A life that feels earned. You are no longer rebuilding from zero. You are building from experience, from awareness, from resilience, from truth. That foundation holds more than you think. The fire didn't destroy you. It clarified you. And clarity is the beginning of power that lasts. Clarity is power, but power demands movement. If you don't act on what you see, it fades. Awareness without action turns into frustration. And frustration left unchecked turns into doubt. This is the point where you decide whether clarity becomes your strength or your burden. You don't have the luxury of drifting anymore. You've seen what happens when life runs on autopilot, when days blur together, when effort is scattered, when intention is missing. You promised yourself you wouldn't live that way again. This promise matters, not because anyone else heard it, but because you did. This is where urgency lives, not panic, purpose with teeth. The kind that pushes you to act even when comfort calls your name. Comfort is subtle. It doesn't scream, it whispers. It tells you to rest when you should push, to wait when you should move, to delay what you know needs to be done. You can hear that whisper now. And for the first time, you don't obey it. You pause. You choose. You remember how far you've come, how much it took to rebuild your footing. You remember the nights you didn't quit, the days you showed up tired but honest. That memory fuels you. It reminds you that effort creates momentum, and momentum creates belief. Belief isn't something you wait for. It's something you earn by doing the work before it feels rewarding. That's how trust with why. Ourself deepens, and deep trust changes behavior. You stop chasing shortcuts. You stop looking for permission. You stop asking if it's too late. You understand that time will pass either way. The only difference is who you become while it does. You are becoming deliberate. Deliberate with your thoughts, deliberate with your actions, deliberate with who you allow close. You understand that your environment shapes you, and you refuse to stay in places that drain your energy or shrink your vision. This creates separation, not from people, but from patterns. Patterns that kept you stuck, patterns that felt safe but led nowhere. You break them not with force, but with consistency. With better choices repeated until they feel normal. Normal redefined. What once felt difficult becomes routine. What once felt impossible becomes manageable. You don't celebrate every step, you respect them. Quiet progress replaces loud intention. This is where momentum compounds. Days stack. Habits strengthen. D. Discipline becomes identity. You no longer need to convince yourself to do what matters. You do it because that's who you are now. And identity drives destiny. When challenges appear, you don't freeze, you assess, you adapt, you respond. You don't personalize setbacks or romanticize struggle. You treat both as part of the process. That emotional regulation is strength. It keeps you steady when outcomes fluctuate. It keeps you grounded when praise appears. You don't rise or fall with external noise anymore. You move forward with internal alignment. Alignment feels like calm certainty, not excitement, not hype. Calm certainty, the kind that lets you breathe deeper, the kind that allows patience without complacency, the kind that trusts effort over emotion. This is maturity earned. You didn't arrive here by accident. You earned it through discomfort, through honesty, through choosing growth when retreat would have been easier. Now your responsibility is clear, to keep going, to protect what you've built, to act with intention even when no one is watching, especially when no one is watching. That's where real character is formed. Character sustains everything. It sustains progress when motivation fades. It sustains focus when distractions multiply. It sustains belief when results are slow. Character is what carries you through the long middle where most people quit. You are not most people. You stayed when things fell apart. You rebuilt when it hurt. You chose truth over escape. That choice reshaped you, and now you carry it forward. Not as pressure, as purpose, as proof. Proof that you can adapt, proof that you can lead yourself, proof that no collapse gets the final word. This life you're building isn't fragile, it's intentional, it's resilient, it's yours. And every step you take from here adds weight to that truth. Keep moving. Everything you've built is alive now. It isn't static. It doesn't wait for comfort. It grows when you feed it with intention and sharpens when pressure hits. This is the point where ordinary effort ends and mastery begins. Mastery isn't about talent or luck. It's about consistency under fire. It's showing up when energy is low, when hope wavers, when distractions scream louder than your purpose. That's where results are forged. That's where transformation becomes undeniable. You've already proven you can endure collapse. Now endurance becomes leverage. Every scar, every sleepless night, every decision to rise instead of retreat. It compounds, it builds a spine that no circumstance can bend and a mind that no fear can sway. This is your advantage. Few get this far. Fewer still use it. You are both. The world will tempt you to forget that. It will offer shortcuts, easy paths, quick approval, immediate gratification. These feel harmless at first. Harmless is the trap. You know it. You felt it. Each compromise erodes the foundation you worked so hard to rebuild. The cost is invisible until it's too late. You cannot risk not now, not ever again. Every day without intention chips away at potential. Every moment spent numbing the mind or avoiding challenge is a vote for stagnation. You've already lost too much to allow that. You've already paid too much. Now is the time to escalate, to raise the stakes, to demand more from yourself than circumstance does, to choose growth even when it's uncomfortable, even when it's inconvenient, even when fear whispers that it's safer to wait. Safety has nothing to offer someone who has already rebuilt from ruin. Your actions today define the life you live tomorrow. Every choice either strengthens the self you're creating or weakens it. There is no neutral. There is no pause. You cannot drift and call it progress. You cannot coast and call it mastery. You either build or erode. Which will it be? You are capable of relentless pursuit. You are capable of holding space for yourself when others do not. You are capable of enduring the grind that reveals true skill, true resilience, true power. That grind is not optional. It is required. And every time you embrace it, you pull yourself further ahead than hesitation ever could. Do not underestimate what consistency creates. Tiny, deliberate actions stack like invisible bricks. Day by day, choice by choice, your life becomes unshakable. What once seemed impossible starts to feel normal. You look back and realize the distance traveled is proof of strength you didn't fully understand until now. This is how influence forms. Not by force, not by speech, not by external recognition, but by the quiet authority of someone who commands themselves. People notice it. Opportunities notice it. The world aligns not because it owes you anything, but because energy recognizes energy. You are producing energy that attracts what you're ready to handle. Fear will still try to break in. Doubt will knock. Old patterns will whisper familiar lies. That is guaranteed. But now, when they come, you respond differently. You do not freeze. You do not retreat. You assess. You adjust. You continue. And with each response, your resilience compounds. Your power grows. Your certainty solidifies. There is no end to this, no moment where you are done. Life will continue to challenge, pressure, and demand, but that is not a threat. It is the proving ground. And you are ready. You have been forged in loss, rebuilt with intention, strengthened through discomfort, sharpened by failure. You carry a foundation few will ever know. This is why you keep going. Not for accolades, not for recognition, not even for comfort. You move forward because you are capable of building a life that withstands everything and becomes greater because of it. You move forward because what you are creating is bigger than fear, bigger than doubt, bigger than the ruins you once feared would define you. Every step, every choice, Every moment you act with integrity compounds into a life that cannot be taken from you. You are not fragile. You are not temporary. You are forged, resilient, and fully capable of becoming more than the collapse ever threatened. And now, there is no excuse to stop. There is no reason to settle. There is no other path but forward. Forward, where you belong. Forward is where you rise. Forward is where everything you have rebuilt becomes unstoppable. Strength is not a point you reach, it's a life you live. Every moment demands it, every choice tests it, every challenge measures it. And now you are measured not by what breaks you, but by what you do when pressure comes calling. You've rebuilt yourself from ruin before. That experience is your weapon. You know the weight of collapse, the hollow ache of uncertainty, the sting of watching everything fall apart. That knowledge is expensive. You paid for it. It is yours to wield. Every lesson, every scar, every sleepless night compounds into a kind of armor few ever earn. But armor alone is not enough. You must move with it. You must act with it. You must refuse to let familiarity with hardship become an excuse for stagnation. You've learned that comfort without challenge is a trap, that safety without growth is a cage. You've felt the cost of idleness, and you will not pay it. Again, pressure will come, uninvited and relentless. It will hit when you least expect it. Life will demand more than you think you can give. That is inevitable. The question is not if it comes, but how you respond when it does. Response defines character. Response defines destiny. Response separates those who rise from those who remain buried under what they cannot control. You are in the rising group now. You choose to respond, not react. You choose to face discomfort with intention, not avoidance. You choose to lean into effort when instinct says rest. You've learned that every moment you hesitate is a vote for stagnation. Every action you take is a vote for progress. The sum of these votes becomes your life. Discipline is your weapon. Consistency is your ally. Integrity is your compass. When doubt strikes, these tools guide you. When fear threatens to paralyze, they drive you forward. You do not wait for certainty. You act, and clarity emerges in motion. Confidence is forged, not even, and it is earned step by step, choice by choice, day by day. Your attention is a force multiplier. Where you direct it shapes your reality. Every decision to focus on growth compounds unseen until the results manifest. Small, deliberate actions create momentum. Momentum generates energy. Energy becomes influence. Influence flows naturally from consistency, from presence, from mastery of self. You no longer need to seek validation. Your presence commands it quietly. Obstacles will rise. People will test you. Systems will resist. Circumstances will threaten. That is the nature of life. You cannot control what comes. You can only control your response. And now your response is deliberate, measured, anchored in the reality that collapse is temporary but rebuilding endures. You understand timing and patience, but you also know urgency. Waiting for perfect conditions is a lie. Action begins in imperfect moments, in discomfort, in the spaces where fear whispers that it's safer to pause. You've learned that every delay is a cost, and you refuse to pay it again. Momentum favors the relentless, the disciplined, the present. You are all three. Your history of survival is proof that you are capable of far more than you think. Every difficulty endured, every setback recovered from, every choice to rise instead of retreat has built something inside you that is unshakable. You do not crumble when life pressures you. You bend, you adapt, you grow, and you move forward with purpose. The stakes are higher now because everything beyond this point is amplified by what you've built. You are no longer fragile. You are no longer uncertain. You carry experience, awareness, skill, and resilience that few ever accumulate. Every challenge you meet now has a potential to elevate you further, to expand what is possible, to prove again that collapse does not define you. Rebirth does. You do not wait for life to be easier. You do not plead for it to align. You create the alignment. You shape the conditions. You lead yourself. That is power. Quiet, unrelenting, unstoppable power. The kind that persists when others falter. The kind that multiplies under pressure. You are not simply surviving. You are thriving in a world built to test you. You are standing in the center of your own authority. You are anchored in truth. You are moving with intention. You are becoming the version of yourself that collapse cannot reach, failure cannot bend, and fear cannot stop. This is what it means to rebuild completely, to rise fully, to take what was lost and forge something greater. This is not the end of your journey. It is the point where mastery begins, where every choice compounds, and where the life you build from here becomes unstoppable. You are no longer broken. You are refined. You are solid. You are ready. And now nothing can hold you back. Nothing built this far can be taken lightly. Every layer you've added, every choice, every disciplined action, every moment you resisted to. Easier path has created weight. Weight that pulls forward, weight that anchors, weight that transforms pressure into leverage. You are no longer the person who stumbled through collapse. You are the person who learned from it, who adapted, who rose stronger. That rising was not temporary. It was a blueprint. And now, every decision you make is another brick laid on that foundation, not for appearance, not for approval, for yourself. For the life you are determined to live, the life that cannot be shaken by circumstance, by opinion, by fear. This is deliberate creation. This is mastery and progress. Fear will come again. Doubt will try to sneak in. Old habits will whisper that it's easier to retreat. You know these voices. You've lived them, but now you meet them with preparation, with awareness, with action. You respond, you don't react. You act with precision, not hesitation. Every time you do, you win ground that most will never claim. You've learned that waiting is wasted energy. Waiting for clarity, waiting for certainty, waiting for permission. Waiting is surrender disguised as patience. Real power is acting in the unknown, moving through discomfort, trusting that your steps will create the ground beneath you. The path is formed in motion, not in waiting. This is the moment to accelerate, not recklessly, but intentionally, not impulsively, but deliberately. Momentum compounds faster than fear. Energy flows to those who act. Habits become identity. Identity becomes destiny. You've seen glimpses of this before, but now you are equipped to command it fully. Every choice carries stakes. Every action amplifies the future. The difference between settling and striving is razor thin. A single step can shift a week, a month, a year. You've been tested before. You've learned that ignoring the small daily decisions leads to collapse. Now the small daily decisions are your leverage points. They build unshakable progress quietly, relentlessly, invisibly. Discomfort is no longer an enemy. It is the indicator that you are moving in the right direction. It signals growth, resistance, refinement. You no longer shrink from it. You step into it. You extract insight. You forge strength from it. Every uncomfortable choice compounds into resilience. Every persistent effort converts fear into clarity. You are no longer bound by circumstance. You are not tethered to expectation. You are free because you have rebuilt your internal world. Trust, discipline, awareness, integrity. They are your armor, your compass, your engine. Nothing outside can dismantle what you have cultivated inside, and now you see the multiplier effect. Every action you take doesn't just move you forward, it changes the trajectory of everything around you. Your relationships, your opportunities, your influence, your standards, your environment responds to the energy you bring. Consistency breeds gravity. Consistency draws the people, resources, and situations that match your level of discipline. The stakes are clear. Life will always test you. It will apply pressure. It will demand more than you thought you could give. But this is no longer a threat. It is an invitation, an opportunity to demonstrate what you are capable of. An opportunity to rise beyond what you believed was possible. You are prepared. You are capable. You are forged in fire, rebuilt with intention, sharpened by struggle, anchored in truth. Your foundation is solid. Your momentum is real. Your capacity is untapped. And every day you choose to act, to resist distraction, to move with clarity, you multiply what you can achieve. You are unstoppable. Not because life is easy, but because you no longer depend on ease. You are unstoppable because you understand that collapse does not define you. Rebuilding does, rising does, moving forward does. This is your life, your standards, your discipline, your authority over yourself, your capacity to endure, to adapt, to grow. Nothing outside can change that unless you allow it. And now, you won't. You are ready, you are capable, you are relentless, you are becoming everything collapse once threatened to destroy.